Okay, hi everybody. It is Tuesday, January 20th. You're here for the weekly community call for chaos. So thank you for showing up and showing your face, showing your Zoom, whatever you want to say. Share. Last week I shared my whole desktop, so this time I didn't. If you want to add your name to the agenda, that'd be great. If you want to tell us a song that's in your playlist, if you're a repeater, great. If you're not, also valid. I did not add mine. Um, there we go. I don't know why that song's on my in my head. I like it. It's my hype song.
Don, I was just listening to Heroes by David Bowie, which is just
Nice.
a
Good
kind of
classics.
legendary song. So
I'm getting recommendations for new songs on my Reels / TikTok, and that's interesting. It's new for me, so yay. I feel cool. I feel relevant that way. Whether or not that's the truth is remains to be seen, but I feel that way anyway. Okay. Oh, one more thing to add to this. Okay. So we do have pretty big news to talk about today, but before we do that, I wanted to just mention a few things. If you have not heard, if you're not in the group or were planning to attend the UN SDG meeting tomorrow, that is canceled. People are getting ready for Chaos Con and doing other stuff. So don't go. No one will be there. The second thing is I wanted to ask if what we think about canceling next week. I know a lot of us are going to be out and traveling and this and that. Do we want to, or those who are going to be here, do you want to keep it going?
yeah, I'm okay with canceling. That seems completely fine with a lot of people on the road.
Yeah, I'm seeing a couple
Yeah.
thumbs up.
Yeah,
Any
same
thumbs?
here.
Yeah, okay. Any thumbs downs? Anybody who's particularly attached to this meeting and doesn't want to see it canceled?
Been
Adinka?
dying to come next week.
Is that you, Adinka? Or are you thumbs upping the cancellation?
Oh, the cancellation, please.
Okay. Okay,
I'm always for listening to me.
I was gonna volunteer you to run the meeting. So there we go.
Oh
Okay,
my
so I will.
God. No, no, okay.
You would be great. Okay. Yes, we will cancel next week. All right. And I guess if people do show up, they can just meet with each other. That's fine. And chat about whatever. It'll be a hangout, like the newcomer hangout. Okay, and the third thing I wanted, that was quick. I love it. The third thing I just wanted to mention is that Augur decided not participating. They decided not to participate. So if you see folks who are coming here, and as far as I know, nobody else in Chaos
I
wants
was
to
wondering that if
take that
anybody
on. I
does.
don't, yeah, I don't think so. At least not that
Okay.
I've heard. That would be if anybody was going to do it, it would have been Augur, as far as I know.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So if anybody sees anybody asking about it, you can tell them with verve that we will not be participating. I mean, that's strong, but you can confirm that we will not be participating. So
Okay.
hopefully that clears up some stuff.
I mean, we could also say, like, if I don't know, if people really wonder, the LF is participating again, and as
Cool.
our foundation, we could just say there are projects that the LF will be sponsoring. I'm not sure what they are, but um, Bill puts out a call every year for LF projects that might want to participate. And I think we've participated through the LF a long time ago.
Oh,
Like we
what
did,
is the difference?
I don't
Okay, fair.
know.
That's valid. Wow. Maybe the LF does a lot of the administrative stuff that kind of bogs down projects of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, the application for GSOC used to be very different. And so I think it was probably easier to coordinate it through the Linux Foundation before.
Got you.
When they only had 8 projects and not.
Yeah.
Eight
And
thousand.
when one of the GSOC requirements wasn't already being engaged in the community.
Yeah. That is a prime example of motivation that is meant to do good things, but that actually kind of has the opposite effect. So, yeah, that was a good try, but yeah, kind of doesn't always turn out that way. Okay. So I think that's it. Before we move on to our big news, does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Would it have been necessary to put up a social post? Because I know I see a lot of people coming in, and specifically for GSOC. I don't know, like we have CHAOSScon going on, so it might just be a lot of information for people.
It's a good question. What do we think?
What
Do
was
we
the
think that the
question?
GSOC folks look at our socials before they start to engage in the project?
I am
Not really.
unconvinced they look at anything.
Mm.
I think it's better to focus on chaos for right now with the socials. CHAOSScon, I
Right.
mean.
Yeah, and
Maybe
also
we.
it's like we've never said that we were, I guess as I'm speaking we as in from like the Augur perspective, that we have not said that we were doing GSOG this year. And we have said in our like working group channel that we are not. And so I don't really think that people will look at, considering that we can barely get a lot of those types to look at any type of documentation or like look at stuff, that I wouldn't think that they would be looking at the social media.
But yes, to your point, we can post something if we haven't already. Post it in general. We can post newcomers, just to make people known or it known to folks who are here if they're looking for that.
I thought your post in general was quite nice. Like, you know,
Oh, I did post that. Yeah.
yeah, like if
Go
you want,
me.
just so you can focus your efforts, just so you're not waiting in hopes that we do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
you posted it in newcomers. It might be good to
Oh,
also post
oh
it
yeah,
in general.
it was
Okay.
somewhere. I saw it this
It
morning.
was somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, wherever I didn't post, I will post.
Might be good to pin it in newcomers as well.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's give space now for a big conversation, the big news. I'm going to turn this over to Dawn and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that she can do that.
Yeah, so for the past few months, the CHAOSS Governing Board has been basically has been working to move to an elected governing body. So this is something that was brought up a while ago in one of the community meetings, and there were a lot of community members who were expressing support for us moving to an elected governing board with terms. So this is something we've been working on. It's hard. It's hard to change the governance of a project the size of CHAOSS with a 15-person board. But we did it. So we got the charter approved by the governing board and the Linux Foundation, which is one of the requirements. And we have some basic information about the election. So there's still a lot to sort out. We need to, for example, we need to get some people to run the election, so election officers who will then set up a timeline for us. So I've been working on that. But this is what it looks like. So governing board members will now serve 2-year terms. So when someone is elected to the governing board, they'll serve for 2 years. And then they can choose to run for re-election as many times as they want. There's no term limits. So people can continue to run in the elections. We do have 2 dedicated seats. So we have a dedicated seat for our 2 primary software projects, so for Augur and Grimoire Lab. Those seats will also be determined by an election, so that's specified in the charter. So we have those 2 seats as well, and then the rest of the seats are filled in an election. So with half of them up for 1 year and half on the next year, so that we don't have full board turnover at any point. If you think maybe you might be interested in being on the board, what it takes is, you have to be a community member who's been actively participating in some part of the project pretty consistently for the past 6 months. And then you'll need to be endorsed by two eligible voters to run in the election. So this prevents things like spam and people kind of gaming the system. And then basically anyone who participates in the CHAOSS community can vote in the election. So the eligible voters are the existing governing board, chairs for our working groups, the people participating in our software projects, anyone making a contribution to the GitHub repository. There's a table that shows you all of those for the last year, and the people listed in the community contributions.md file. And so this is where, so we haven't put together the timeline for the election, but if you've been contributing to the CHAOSS project and your contributions have not been captured in GitHub or elsewhere, this is where you should add your contribution to become eligible to vote. So you can see that there's, facilitating meetings, working on CHAOSScon, for example. There's loads of things that aren't necessarily considered in some of the other areas. So if you want to be eligible to vote, I would encourage you to go ahead and use this community contributions file. There's a process for that. You open an issue and there's a little process. And the other change, and it's not something that we've had come up, or at least hasn't in the past couple of years, but no more than 2 seats can be held by employees of the same organization. So this is what prevents an organization from trying to, have a takeover of the board. So we have a process for that. So at this point, I'll just stop talking and ask if there are any questions. Yes, Mary Blessing.
Yeah, this is a very good and good update, I would say, and thanks to you and the governing board. I think I wanted to just ask in simple terms, like for community members, what does this change mean for the project and for community or members participating in the project moving forward?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest change for community members is this gives you a voice in the top level leadership of the CHAOSS project, because historically we didn't have term limits. Some of the people have been on the CHAOSS board since 2017. So they've been on the board for a very long time. And the way that we bring new people into the board now, before this change, was we would, if somebody stepped down from the board, we'd say, well, who might be a good person to replace them. And as a governing board, we would just decide who replaced them. So that really didn't give people who outside of the governing board, people from the rest of the community, it didn't really give them an opportunity to have input into who is leading the project. And the other thing is because there are terms, this means that we'll have an election every single year, and about half of the seats will be up in the election. Now, like I said, people can choose to run again, people who are on the existing board. But because we haven't actually brought any new people onto the board since, trying to remember, since 2023. So it's been 2.5 years since we've had any new members on the board. So the other thing I would say is this gives newer community members a regular yearly opportunity to run for a seat on the CHAOSS governing board. So that's where I see it impacting the broader community. I don't know if there's several board members on the call. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts, wants to add anything to that.
No, that was good.
I would just add that I think having it in writing also just clarifies for everybody what the process is, and it brings more transparency to the process. So in my opinion, it improves inclusion, it improves diversity, it improves transparency, and I think that it also encourages people to document their contributions, which we have struggled with in the past. So I think that this solves a lot of things. So A plus, A plus. I'm a big fan of this decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
+1 to everything Elizabeth said. Other questions?
Do we have this on this website already, or just on this GitHub repository?
Yeah, so the way this works is we do have the changes to the charter, which are on the website itself. And so it has, the last update date. It has, things about serving a 2-year term, election procedures, and methodology. Methodology is the word I'm looking for, and a link to GitHub. So the way we do this for other projects is that the actual election mechanics and the software and there's a whole bunch of technical stuff that has to happen around running these elections, and that is a lot easier to have all of that in GitHub. So the plan is really not to put the mechanics on the website. It's just to leave them on GitHub, but people can really easily find them because it's linked right here from the charter. So they can find the page on GitHub that has all of the details. And it's all in this elections folder. And so there'll be a folder that's something like 2026 dash GB or something. And then we'll have a folder which has all of the documents that we need to run the election. So it'll have the people who are eligible to vote, it will have the timelines, it will have all of the candidates. So having all of that in one place in GitHub makes it a little bit easier.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Other questions?
I have one more question, and you might not even know the answer to this, which is also valid. So when people do run, will they be given an opportunity to communicate their contributions to the project, or like, what's the word? Run, like kind of run. So will they be able to interact with people and answer questions about, kind of just how they feel about chaos, whatever. I don't know what that would even look like, but just wondering what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we generally would have is a candidate would submit something, and they submit it as a PR in GitHub, and we can decide what these fields are. So we may add some additional things. And then the election software that we use pulls this content directly from GitHub and displays it in the election software. So the election software will have the list of candidates and it will pull the data from this. But we'll decide what we want these because there's a template that we create that people can use. So we'll decide what's in this template. And yeah, and then we do want people to talk about what their contributions. It'll probably be something similar to this. So, what are your contributions and why are you running? Because I think those are the two things that we generally care most about when we're evaluating candidates to decide who to vote for. At least from my perspective, those are the two things I look at. What have they done and what are they going to do when they get elected?
Yeah, that's excellent. We could even do like an issue template for it, the same, similar process for what we have for that contributions doc or something like that. If we're gonna allow people who aren't familiar with GitHub to also be a part of it, because that might be just a little barrier for folks to not, if they don't know how to do that. But yeah, I love this. That's perfect. That answered my question.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that because the output, this is actually the output. This is what they put in. It's actually YAML because that's what the election software needs.
Gotcha.
So that I've used YAML to generate issue templates, but I'm not sure if the issue, no, because it has to be a PR. It has to be a PR. It can't be an issue. Um, but we'll look at that. We'll look at that. We'll look at ways maybe we can make this easier for people. We can also pair them up with people who can help them with the PR.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I
Those.
think we should look at ways to make this more inclusive. And Elizabeth has so we still need the election officers to be ratified by the board, but I know Elizabeth has volunteered to be an election officer, so we'll make sure that people are well represented by the election officers for the election.
And there is information about what the criteria are for becoming an election officer and how that works as well in that doc, right, Dawn? Did I see
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Election
Yeah.
officer. Yeah, there you
Because
go.
there is quite a bit of criteria for being an election officer. So you can't be you have to be a CHAOSS community member in good standing, not running for steering, not currently not running. Oh man, I missed one again, steering in the
I
election.
see it.
All right, I think I can fix the typo without getting
I think so
reapproved by the
too.
board.
That's okay.
Yeah, not running for the governing board in the election, and they're not part of the current governing board, so that they are completely impartial.
Can you clarify?
There will
I
be
think
one election officer who's not really currently involved in the CHAOSS community, because we need someone with expertise in the election software. And the two people within the community that have that expertise are not people who can be an election officer. But I also have a volunteer who's fantastic, who's offered to help with that. So. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah. Can you clarify I think you said there was 2 reserved seats for the 2 software projects. Can you clarify kind of the intent of that? Is that supposed to be just like like a minimum bar, or like limiting the number of people from the software projects that can be board members?
No, it's not limiting. What it is, let's see. I'm going to find the part in here. So each CHAOSS software project will have a dedicated seat on the governing board. There will be, so this is right here. So it's basically, there's one seat that's dedicated to Augur and one seat that's dedicated to Grimoire Lab. And the software project will define an election process and select their representative who will be on the board. And so those are just for those 2 seats. And then anyone can run in the general part of the election. So it can be people who are part of these projects. It can be people who do anything else. So these are basically reserved seats, but they're not limiting seats. So, as many people from the Augur project as wanted to run on the governing board could run. Did that answer your question, Adrian?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, cool. Other questions, comments? Okay, cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dawn. I feel like
And
this
we'll have
was-
more announcements when we have things like timelines and checking voter eligibility and making sure the candidates have enough time to get involved.
Yeah, that will be helpful. So I just want to make sure that we are communicating this a lot throughout the project. So
Yeah.
excellent, excellent work. I know that was a long time coming and a lot of work, so thank you. Okay, we have time now, I think. Actually, let me pause. Folks who are on CHAOSScon committee, how are we feeling? Do we need to take some time today? I don't see Georg.
Yes.
Okay.
Or I don't know if I assume that he was in here because I am messaging him.
Oh,
Yeah, I was thinking we'll discuss the schedule because
Yeah.
looks like we've had a lot of changes. So yeah.
okay. So, Adinka, is that okay if we push till the next meeting, talk about this?
Yes, please. It's okay. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Because this is cool and exciting, and I want to make sure we have enough time to give it the attention that it deserves. So thank you so much. Let me just put a note here. Next meet. So it'll be in 2 weeks. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing and stop the recording. If you're in the CHAOSScon committee, planning committee, stick around. If you're not, you can have the rest of your time back. Stop.